Welcome to our new session of Pentaho How-To. Today we're going to be doing some analysis on our energy data we loaded from MongoDB last time. For this, we're going to be modifying some data models, and we're going to be using the Community Edition components in order to generate a dashboard and to see the possible analysis that we can do. On our last session, we generated an ETL to extract data from a MongoDB. This is the transformation that we ended up that loads all our data in a Agile VI table. Now we're going to be using this data in order to generate a model. We did that last time, and you can follow the previous videos to see how it was done. But we're going to use this model that was generated, and we're going to publish them to Pentaho Analytics server. For this, last time we just generated a model, just like the one we're just clicking, and now we're going to publish to Pentaho. Now that we're on the Pentaho platform, we can see the data model that we published, or to what data source it's connected. We can do that by selecting the Manage Data Source. Here we have our Energy Data Basic model. It says basic because we're going to enhance it. Okay? Now, for the analysis of today, we're going to be using HOWTO and CDE, and next session we will be using Pentaho Enterprise Edition components. HOWTO and CDE can be downloaded from the Pentaho Marketplace. You just have to click on Pentaho Marketplace and download them. He will install them automatically. Here we have our energy cube, and here we have information like show me all the values for all indicators. Now, this number is aggregating all indicators, which is something we should not do. And this is how it comes by default when you generate the model. So today, we need to do a little bit something more interesting for this. We need to fix this model and to make it bulletproof in a way. Now, before I do that, let me just show you more information about the indicators we have. Here we have the different indicators. Access to rural access to electricity. Here we have different kinds of generation, renewable energy in total, percentages. Here we have different things, and as you can see here is aggregating everything. This is a percentage, and here we have a huge number here, and so on. Okay, so those more things to fix. Now if we keep only the total consumption data, I'm going to use this element over here to select only total final consumption. Here we have that total final consumption. He did an auto filter by me. If I see it, here we have a selector. I could have used that selector, and I'm going to put just to show me all the countries. I'm going to show them in rows. Now if I have this, I don't need to have this on. I will put this on a filter, and here I have the different countries. Neat. So here we have the information we need somehow. So we just need to organize it a little bit more. Okay? Like bottom down, up down. Here we have information. Here we have 3 decimals, 1 decimal, other things to fix that we need to make better. We also have different, besides countries, we also have regions here like world, high income countries, and so on, which we can remove. Here there is an element called region, and on region we have aggregates information or different regions, but we have aggregates here. We need to get rid of those aggregates too. Perfect, so here we have a little overview of what kind of data we have. Let's make it better. Now that we saw our data model and how it's behaving, we need to modify it, and we're going to use the data sources, data energy basic, and we're going to download it. I'm going to download it right here. Here we have it. It's downloaded, and I'm going to use my schema workbench to analyze it. I already have my schema workbench open, and here I have the data, the energy data basic. So here we have the information. Here we have the different dimensions that we saw and the value. we need to work this a little bit more, okay? And we're going to be crossing the information without destroying the current data source. We're going to keep the same data source in this strategy, but we're going to be just playing around with the data measures. For this, we're going to be using the creation of calculated members. Okay? Excellent. So this is the first step. Another thing we have to do is that indicators, we don't want them to be visible. And we have different conditions here that we can use. Now, let's jump directly to how it looks like after all the modifications that I did. Okay, so here we have our new energy data enhanced. This new data energy enhanced looks very similar to the one we had before. Now, but if we expand the cube, you will see that we have many new measures. These are calculated measures. You can see it by the CN. Now, here we have the energy information, hydro energy, liquid biofuels, and here what I did is very simple. It's a simple MDX formula indicating that we want from this indicator the value. Now, as you can see, I did the same for each one of the measures. I could have played with the data source and do some pivoting data, but on this particular case, it was better to follow this approach. Now, there's another thing. When I was managing percentages, it's important to say that in percentages, I created another measure. Here we have the value, and here we have the average of the value. And in the case of the percentages, we're seeing the average of the value. Here we have different percentages. I'm using averages. In regular modeling, you don't want always to use percentages. You want to calculate your own percentages. In the case of this data, the amount of transmission and distribution losses and the access to electricity already comes in percentages. So it's part of my data source. It's usually much better if you calculate it yourself. Like, for example, we're going to do that later, but here we have the renewable energy percentage compared to the total. And we have these two values. We have the renewable energy and we have the total. So we can do this calculation here in the cube. In this case, this is a percentage that comes already from the data, but we will see why it's not a good idea to do it like this. Okay. In general, I never use averages for measures. I prefer to use minimum and maximums. That lets you show you the real values. And when you're analyzing the whole world or different regions, you can see what is the maximum percentage that exists and the minimum percentage that exists. If you can drill down to the countries in order to get more information. Okay, now let's see how this looks like. It's very simple. We're just going to file, publish the data. Here we have our data source cube. Here we have our GNDI information, and it's published. So let's jump directly to our cube. So we're going to go to Psycho Analytics. We're going to refresh the data over here, and here we should have, you see, energy data enhanced energy. New cube, new set of measures, different elements. Oh, another thing that you didn't see is that on my enhanced method, I decided that indicator was a dimension that I didn't want to see anymore, so I made it invisible. So here we have the information. Let's see what kind of things we can generate from here. Now that we have our data model published, we can do some kinds of new interesting analysis. Here we have our new data energy enhanced, and here we have all our new variables. As you can see, we just did a little tweak to the model, and we have a different perspective of the data. So let's see a little bit how this looks like. Let's just select a few countries, okay, that belong to a specific region. Let's get Europe in general. Okay. Now, what do we want to see? We want to see the total final consumption. Okay, here we have our data. Now this data over here at the bottom, a little bit small, okay? We're going to see it by year. We want to see the years on the columns. Wonderful. But we want to organize this a little bit more, so we want to sort descending order. And we can select by which specific measure. We're going to use the final total consumption. Here we have Germany is the one that uses more energy. And if we move to the right, we can include our little micro chart that shows us the behavior of each one of these countries. Okay, here we have a very interesting data set we can use, we can play with. Once we have this information, let me just click here on stop editing, so for view mode. Here we have our data, very nice and pretty. And let's just click here on our charts. Here we have the years on the strategies, real mess. So let's just pivot the data like this. Here we have the different years, okay, and here we have the behavior of the countries. This is Germany, as you can see, and here we have France. Wonderful. We can actually generate different charts. Like this, so we can see the behavior. And let's say that we want to take only one of these countries. I'm going to take, for example, from here, I'm going to take Spain, keep only Spain. Here we have the behavior by year, but now we're going to edit it again. I'm going to take out the total consumption, okay? And let's just analyze the data by hydro energy, liquid, geothermal energy, wind, marine, solar, waste consumption, traditional biomass consumption. We're gonna get also, this is totals, so be careful about these ones, biomass and modern biomass extraction. In general, we have the kinds of energy that are being used. Now we have these elements. I just want to do a little quick analysis of this. Wonderful. Oh, it's not that wonderful. Just have to fix something. 1 second. Let's just move years over here. And actually the country can be a filter. I don't want to see that anymore. And here we have our data again. Okay. So here we have the behavior of the energy consumption by year. As you can see, in 1990, modern biomass extraction was the top, and here we can see basically that the other half, 31%, belong to hydro energy. Then they have been evolving all the way to using different kinds of energy generation, and we can see this in a real nice chart like this. Just view the data 1 second. Here we have the energy behavior for each one. Now the best selection for this kind of data is this one. Here we have the information for hydro energy. Here we have liquid biofuels, wind energy. So as you can see, the increase of wind energy have increased a lot over the years. And this is just some of the information that we can extract. Now, for today, we already have this data, which is really interesting. And we can pivot and we can analyze, okay, very nicely. But we want to do a little bit more of analysis in a little dashboard. So the next step, let's go to CDE and create our first dashboard. Now that we have our data set and we understand it a little bit more, let's create our first dashboard. I'm going to open a CDE dashboard. Okay, I usually like to work better on a new window. Perfect. And we're going to start adding some elements. First thing I'm going to add is a first row with some columns. Actually, I'm going to put two columns. One is going to be, let's call it filter 1, and let's just put another one, filter 2. So this is going to be my filters row. I'm going to create another row with one column. This is going to be for my main chart, or the chart on the top. Let's call it main chart. Okay, perfect. So now that we have this, let's just filter a little bit more, or add two more elements. I can add them later, or I can add them now with, let's just put another one column. Let's call it details 1, and let's add one more, details 2. Okay, so now let's just add elements here. We're going to use at the beginning some very quick helpers. We have some wizards like this selector. This selector will help us out to connect to our data source, energy, and we're going to select, for in this case, the countries. Let's just put the countries over here. Here we have our countries example preview, and let's call this countries or country selector. It's a type select, so we have different types, and where do we want to put this? In all the elements we created. Let's just put all of them for now. Okay, excellent. I'm gonna save this real quick. Here in the public area I created an energy, and here we have dashboard 1. Okay, energy usage overview. Okay, let's create this little dashboard over here, and now let's just have a quick look to the dashboard. So far we have a drop down with all the elements, very quick, with a lot of effort. So let's just now add our first chart. For this I'm going to use a little psycho wizard to do this. So here we have our data source that we used before, and now I'm going to select my, let's say that I have a country already selected. So let's just use one country. I will explain what we're going to do later with this. We have one country, pick any, it's not important. And now that I have my country, I want to put on the years on columns, and on rows I want to see all my different kind of energy generation, like hydro, I'm just going to put them here in the rows, liquid, geothermal, wind, marine, solar, waste. We have done this many times. So here we have biomass consumption and modern biomass consumption. Wonderful. Here we only see 2 because of this country. If we select any other country, like for example Italy, we will see a different data set of indicators. Okay, perfect. Now we have this selector with all this data, and this is what we're going to use as a data source. This wizard helps us half of the way. He creates the MDX. We're going to be editing later, but right now we need to fix the GNDI connection, and we need to fix the Mondrian schema that we're using. It doesn't come from the API to pull it in. So now that we have this information, I'm going to come to my little components element. I'm going to use a chart. In this case, as I explained to you before, based on the kind of data, we're going to use a stack area chart. Stack area chart, we're going to call it overview in time. Oh, let's put the word chart here. Okay, and here let's see the evolution of energy generation method by time. And let's just put some data sources. We're going to use this OLAP query. I don't like that name. So let me just go real quick to my data source and just say year lead data. Okay, wonderful. I have to save this. So let's just select here our OLAP data. Oh, as you can see, I don't see it. Let's save this 1 second. Here we have it. Okay, and where do we want to place this? We want to place it in the main chart. Okay, in the first stage we have one. Let's just have a quick look. You will see that everything is going to be on top. We have the title. We don't have anything so far. So let's just fix a few things. It's a crosstab mode, yes. See, timing series, this is true. Okay. One more thing, I need to select here on my columns what is the size of the chart, and this is based on 24 columns. For now, we're gonna show you something very interesting. But now we have 24 columns, and let's just do a quick preview. Nice, nice that I don't have anything. So here, let's just have a quick look at what is going on. We have our data models with elements. Yes, I still have not added any parameters. Here we have our data source. Okay, here we have our data. As you can see, this data is from Italy. It's not linked to this over here. No, it doesn't matter what we do, it's not linked to this one. We need to fix that later. So now we have our data, okay? And it's not reacting based on the selection. But we have a first view. Now the next thing I want to do is to have a quick view based on the year. I'm going to put a year here, and then we're going to do everything clickable. For now, let's just add a year here, and we can see different behaviors. So here I'm going to go to my row elements. I'm going to add one more element here. Let's move it up, and let's just add one more column. Oh, sorry, my mistake. This should go down. It's another column, and I'm going to put, this is the filter number, actually year filter. You will see why I want to do this. So let's go to the components. I'm going to use my selector wizard again. So I take the data of the years from here. We have data and year selector. We're gonna use this as regular selector, and I'm gonna use year selector filter. Okay. Let's just close the box to see how it goes. Not very nice, right? So let's fix it later. Okay, save. Now we have our data. We have two elements, the component, and we can see it. Here we have our nice selector. Okay, and now we want to see the information at the bottom with two different charts. Really quick. Oh, sorry, mistake. Let's use our cycle helper to help us out with these components. I'm gonna use right now again all the kinds of energy generated. One mass, oh there. And let's just see that information for the selected country. What country? Let's use Italy again for this example. Wonderful. Okay, I'm just gonna pivot the data. I want to use it like this. So here we have the different kinds of data, of energy. Now as you can see, we don't have it. I need to put the year selector. This is gonna be another of the parameters we're gonna use. I'm gonna pick any of them for now. 2010. Oh, I selected 2012. Let's select 2010, it's fine. Okay, I have issues with my mouse selector. Let's click OK. Here we have our data, and let's just click OK. Here we have, again, as I said before, we have to generate these two components. And now that we did this, we can actually go to our charts and we can create a little pie chart. Okay. Oh, again, we have this little interesting name convention we have to fix. I'm gonna just put a little weight to this, where it's gonna be displayed in details 1, and we're gonna say that, let's just save it, have a quick look to this chart. Okay. Very nice and interesting. We don't have enough space. So we can either play with this value and have a better understanding of the view, or we can play with other concepts I will explain later. Sorry. So here we have 12 points and here we have 12 points. Wonderful. So let's just save this and preview. Wonderful. Here we have our chart. And here we have our chart. Excellent. So now the next concept that we have to play with, and of course we can play this with this chart like this, and we can also play with this chart like this. But this comes from regular usage. Let's just start linking these things together. We want to show something else over here. So if you continue working like this with some other additional steps, you can make this dashboard to look like this. And after some styling and different elements, here we have our dashboard with some highlightings, charts with a little bit more interaction, and our little table with the same values. However, I have not yet connected anything. I just changed a few styles, selectors. I can search, filter, do new things, okay? But we still need to do some connections. So I wanted to show you how I did the connection. How am I going to do the connections? To do this, I'm going to go to my components, and I have my data here for my table, different elements. I have to add the parameters. Here we have the MDX that I created. Country, Italy. Remember, we did this last time. And here we have our yearly data, where we also have here country, Italy. So here I'm going to take this country, Italy, and I'm going to put here a dollar element called country, like this. And I'm going to create a parameter over here that I'm going to call it country. By default, I'm going to put this. It's just for, this usually should be the global element, but I'm going to put this for now. Okay, excellent. Now we have our element. Let's do the same thing here. Here we have our data selector. Okay, here we go. And one more. Perfect. So these elements that we're adding will help us out to do the data interaction. Well, this is interaction only for the parameters. Now we have to connect things. So let's take our simple selector. The selector, I want to show you something, was done automatically. Country selector fills the parameter country selector parameter. So we need to go to our overview time, and we're going to put here a parameter, and the parameter is for country. You're going to use which one? We're going to use the country selector. That's the one. Second thing that we have to do is to establish the listener. We can have different parameters, but we need a listener. So we are going to listen to the country parameter. Now, if we take a look to this, I'm going to save over here, and I'm going to go to my viewer, refresh. Here we have our selector, and here we have Afghanistan. Okay, information. We want to see information from Spain. We click on Spain, and it's refreshing. Excellent. So this is the information as it refreshes. We still have to do some, as you can see, the chart is when it renders, it crashes the chart area. We have to fix that. We will do that. So now we need this one and this one to be refreshed as well, because they are not being refreshed. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to change the table, with the same concept. We're going to put here country, and over here we're going to just connect it to the parameter. Wonderful. And we have our pie chart, which also has a parameter, and we're going to put country, and we're going to connect it to our parameter. As we can see, now we have most things a little bit better. I'm going to select these two. I'm going to, here in the listeners, I'm also going to select these two. So now it's selecting both elements, so whatever I change, it will be refreshed. And now I'm going to save this, and let's take a look. As you can see, data is not being refreshed over here. And here we have Spain. So here we have our different data selected and our little table that shows us the information. We still need to style this a little bit more. However, if I change the year over here, you will see that it's not rendering. I mean, it's re-rendering, but the same values. So we need to do a little more tweaking over here. When we did the selectors, we decided to put the parameters, but we forgot to put the parameters, or I forgot to put the parameters on the year. We also have to select the year. I'm going to put here time, okay? And I'm going to add another parameter, time, and I'm going to say that for standard is 2010, for by default. I'm going to do the same thing here, add time 2010, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put my parameter on 2010. Okay. Now we have all of those things. Now we are not yet sending the parameters. I did that on purpose a little bit. So here we have parameters. As you can see, we have this one, but we need to add time, and time is linked to the year selector. Here we have another one, another parameter, which is time, and it's linked to our year selector. Excellent. So now we have our nice, beautiful chart. Here we have it. So let's go down and select Spain again. Here we have the information for Spain. For what year? Oh, this is, I didn't remember, like the beginning of the video. Here we have these percentages, and here we have these two values. I'm showing all these other values over here, very little. But let's move down to 2010. And as you can see, the values changes completely. If we want to do this a little bit more exciting, we need to make that when we select any of these elements, this needs to be refreshed. We do that by the click event, but we're not going to do that today. For today, we are already achieved our objective. And another thing I wanted to show you is that the new dashboard that we created is responsiveness. which means that if we refresh, just because of this chart, we're using the bootstrap selector, and that means that now the chart adjusted itself to the data. So here we have the layout, and as you can see, the table decided to go down. Here we have our chart. Here we have all the interaction. And this can very easily be seen on an iframe, and an iPad, or an iPhone, Android device, or anything you need. Perfect. Well, excellent, everyone. On our next session, we're going to be doing the same, but with Pentaho's Enterprise Edition components, just to show you a little bit about different alternatives you can have when you play with the information. And whatever other thing you want to see, please let me know. Thank you.